Okay, well, I have a million stories that I could tell. Andy can attest to that, but I'm going to choose to tell the story that involves $1 million because I think that would be more pertinent for this audience. Okay? So I don't know how many of you guys have been involved in trade shows and how many have been able to parlay a trade show appearance into a couple of $1 million worth of business. Anybody? It's fictitious, right? It's never been done. Well, I'm going to tell you the story about how that actually happened. This was years ago. I was working with an early stage company that did technology work. We were in the agile development space, which today is pretty blasé. It's been around for a long time. 10 years ago, it hadn't. The company that I was with was relatively small. It was a consultancy of about 20 people. Of those 20, 18 were technologists. There was a graphic artist, and then there was me, the business development guy. Right off the bat, it's like, here I am, the only Asian in the company, and I'm the sales guy, right? I'm not the technical guy, but hey, it worked out, okay? So we're doing agile work. We're one of the early players in this space, and I'm thinking as a business development guy, how do you reach people? How do you make a name for yourself? So there was a conference that took place every year. It was the biggest conference in the agile community at the time. All the thought leaders went there. It was called Agile 2000 whatever. Started in 2003, and then it was Agile 2004, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm looking at this, and I'm like, well, how do you make a presence there? How do you get speaking engagements? Well, there are two options. You could either pay $1 gazillion and be a big named speaker, or you could write white papers, have them accept them, and decide they were interested in your story. So I talked to the 5 top technologists in our company. I said, you guys need to start writing white papers now, okay? And nobody had time. You weren't getting paid for that, but I convinced them that that was an important thing to do for our presence. I, on the other hand, was going to write a white paper about the business side of agile development because this is a conference where, for the most part, technologists were talking to technology people about technology. I wanted to be different. I wanted to come in with something that was, that was novel. So I'm talking about the business side of this. I submit a white paper, it gets accepted. 4 of our other speakers got accepted. So we go to this conference. We're probably the smallest vendor there, but we buy some booth space. We make ourselves look big. We throw a big party, which, as a company our size, wasn't necessarily supposed to be able to do, but we were very creative. We made it happen. So I give my presentation, and I'm talking to these technologists. The white paper I wrote was called Agile Selling in the Early Stage Space. And the first question that I asked this group of technologists, you're an early stage company. What's the most important thing you can have? Scrum, XP, process. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Customers, okay? Oh yeah, customers, right? So I'm trying to explain things in a very simple way that it just kind of makes sense, right? So I give the presentation, goes over pretty well. This gentleman comes up to me afterwards. He said, "Yeah, I'm Joe Smith. I'm working for a subsidiary of a McGraw-Hill company, real small, but we'd be interested in having you guys. We're looking at Agile, and you seem like you're on top of it. You've got a good presence here. Would you be interested?" I said, "Well, let me think about this a second. Yes, okay." So I go up there, I pitch to them, they decide they want to use us. We start the engagement. It's about a $50,000 engagement, not the $1 million yet that I'm talking about, $50,000. So we start the engagement. I've got a good team up there, but they're frustrated. They're calling me up and they're saying, the real top executives aren't being engaged. They're not coming to the meetings they're supposed to. We don't think this is going to be successful. So about halfway in, I call up the project manager. I said, "Guy, I got to tell you, I'm going to have to pull the team. I don't think that it's working." And he says, "You know what? I kind of agree with you." He said, "It's not your fault, it's our fault." I said, "Yeah." He said, "And I'm not going to charge you 50 grand, even though it's a guaranteed contract. I'll charge you for our time." And that was it. He goes, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's the right thing to do." So I made a decision right there that cost our company $25,000. We're a small company. It's a big chunk of money for a company our size, okay? So went about our business, things went on. About 6 months later, I got a call from another guy from McGraw-Hill saying, "I'm Chris Z. I used to work for that subsidiary. I know about you guys, I know what you did. I'm now in a position with a big subsidiary of McGraw-Hill called Business Week. We're totally revamping what we're doing. We want to do it agilely, and we'd like you guys to participate because you showed us one thing that no other vendor has up to now. It's integrity. So I'm like, well, let me think about this. Yes. So I'm on the train the next day. I go up and I pitch to this whole group. There's like 50 executives in the room. And I'm talking about Agile and how it can work for them and blah, blah, blah. And they all get engaged and they like it. So this is going well. And I'm thinking, I want this thing to succeed. There was a subcontractor that we worked a lot with. He was a British guy. It wasn't Andy, okay? But he was a British guy, which turns out to be a great thing if you're in the technology space, right? So we get this guy. He's a very creative guy. He goes up there, and you know, you walk in this McGraw-Hill facility, and it's this sea of gray, you know, drab cubicles with people sitting there with gray, drab, you know, demeanors, and nobody's happy. Well, this guy comes in. It's almost like a scene out of Office Space, right? He comes in with a hex wrench, and he goes, no, this is not going to work. We need a pod. We need a, you know, and he starts taking the cubicles apart, and he builds this, you know, this one big pod where 10 people can sit, and they can collaborate, and they can do cool stuff together. And all of a sudden, this is the division in the company that has life. You know, they're excited. Everybody else that's a development there or a developer walks by, and they want to be in this thing. They're, why can't our division take the world's down? You know, so it's working great. So they. You know, we started out with a small engagement. It turns into a bigger engagement. It turns into an even bigger one. By the time all was said and done, we had like about 3 years of work with these guys. For a company our size, it was phenomenal. It was game changing. So if I look at the, you know, some of the key decision points, right? One is when you're ever faced with a situation like I was in, you know, in small business, you're a service company, integrity trumps everything else. Right? Make the right decision based on integrity, which I did with the client. Wasn't about, I cost my company $25,000, but I wound up winning them like whatever, you know, $975,000 in the process. So making that decision was key. At the time, I didn't do it because I thought I was going to have this huge payoff. I did it because it was the right thing to do, but it turns out there was a payoff. Secondly, if you get a chance to bring in a good project manager and you're in the IT space, you know, it's always good to get a guy with an accent, okay? Get a guy maybe with an earring, you know? Get a guy with even a ponytail, right? Because those things in the technology space buy you a lot of credibility, okay? So yeah, that's my joking end, but you know, at the end of the day, the decisions that we made along the way really paid off, and you know, I thought that was game changing for that company. So thank you.